Hey guys, Grant here. I want to tell you all about my friends at Black Bear Inn and Suites of Gatlinburg who are making it possible to bring this episode to you. As you guys know, I grew up in East Tennessee, and there are two things that all East Tennesseans have in common. We all love the Vols, and we all love the Smoky Mountains. Since I've moved to Nashville, I've been unable to get my Smoky Mountain fix in, but thankfully, our friends at Black Bear Inn and Suites of downtown Gatlinburg have me covered. They are conveniently located at 1100 Parkway and are within walking distance of all the major attractions and best food that downtown Gatlinburg has to offer. To book your Smoky Mountain getaway today, visit blackbeargatlinburg.com or call 865 436 5656 or toll free at 1 800 933 0777. All right, welcome into this episode of the Vol and Out podcast. My name is Grant Williams, and joining me just as he does each and every time here on the program, I have got Jordan Mountcastle with me. Jordan, how are you doing, brother?
Buddy, I'm great, man. I'm doing a whole lot better than those Aggies are, man.
Dude, I bet you they are about Alabama football mad right now.
They big mad.
Well, I
I ain't
mean, and
seen.
and we'll talk about it a little bit later here inside the show. But I mean, man, it has been just a hell of a 2 week stretch for the Aggies that, I'm not sure what they can or can't do coming back from this. But guys, we have a jam-packed show for you today. We are going to talk all sorts of things. We're going to talk about the Vols whooping up on Texas A&M on Saturday night. We are going to give you guys a player of the game, put somebody on the milk carton, dive into whatever is going on with that mess that the Tennessee beat the NCAA in court on Friday, talk a little bit about Vols baseball, and preview the massive matchup of Bruce Pearl's return to Knoxville on Wednesday night at the Food City Center. So, Jordan, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into it.
I'm gonna have to have you stop right there, sir. I can only be so erect right now.
Man, we've got so much that we're doing today, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. But on Saturday night, the Volunteers got some revenge against the Texas A&M Aggies, 56-51. Vols started off pretty slow, but caught fire late in the first half and really didn't look back for a 35-point win. Dalton,
Man,
Ncaa, Jonas all had just phenomenal nights. There was a historic night for the man in charge himself, Richard Dale Barnes, getting his 800th victory, which we are going to do a special show on for you guys and have that released on Tuesday. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. And the biggest thing that happened last night, now the Volunteers control first place in the Southeastern Conference.
oh, buddy, got that with a little bit of help from I ain't gonna call them our friends because they're not.
You got some help from your arch nemesis on this one.
Yes. It was like watching. I don't know. I was gonna say it was like watching Florida beat Bama or something, but it's Kentucky beating Bama.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the two teams you can't stand. So, I mean, man, it just, everything went exactly how you wanted it to go yesterday. And I'm beyond thrilled for that. Couple of takeaways that I had from the game yesterday. I mean, kind of like what I said earlier, you had three guys who played grown man ball last night.
Oh, buddy. I mean, they just the physicality that they played with last night, dude. Ridiculous. Like
Well,
just
and
grown, like you said, grown man ball.
it was grown man ball, and we'll talk about it after we get done with the graphics on this one before we jump into player of the game and the milk carton. But man, I mean, it just seems like Tennessee's twin tower approach is the best thing that they could possibly do right now. It seems to have an answer for anything going on, and Tennessee's only able to do that because JP Estrella is back healthy now, in my opinion.
True. Like, man, just when Adu plays like he did last night and Tobey compliments him like he has been. They said it during the broadcast last night, man, that 18-point double he had the other night. That'll do something for a man's confidence. That'll put a little pep in your step.
Hell yeah, it will. Hell yeah, it will. When you have a great day at the office, man, you're ready to go back to work. And
Yeah.
he had a great day. I mean, against Mizzou, what was it, Tuesday night, and then another great night that he followed that up with. Diving into the full team stats, Tennessee shot a blazing 52.4% from the field versus A&M's 27.3%. From the three-point line, Tennessee shot 35% versus A&M's 20.6%.
Man, how the tables turned.
I mean, man, it was the exact copy and paste of the game that happened in A&M, just a different team doing the right things.
Absolutely, man. That's why we love college basketball right there.
Well, you're right on that, man. Diving into a little bit more of what Tennessee did, 72.2% from the free throw line. Not the best, but you did a hell of a lot better than the Aggies did for their 53.3%. Tennessee
Ooh,
grabbed 50 boards in this game versus A&M's 33. 10 of
ooh.
those were on the offensive end, where 40 were on the defensive end.
You can't tell me going into this game. Not only were the Vols revenge minded, they were like, anything that comes off that rim, that's mine. That's my
Well,
ball.
Tennessee was out for blood in this game, man. I mean, that it was very apparent from the very beginning that everybody inside the Food City Center wanted that game last night. Richard Dale Barnes wanted it, the entire team wanted it, and there was about 21,000 other people there who were screaming their heads off all night to make sure Tennessee was able to get that. Diving into a couple more of the numbers right here, Tennessee had 23 assists versus Texas A&M's 11. Tennessee had 8 steals and A&M had 8 steals as well. Got to get that cleaned up on turning the ball over for Tennessee. I've said that 5,000 times now at this point. You have to take better care of the basketball. Assists, Tennessee 23 versus A&M's 11. Both teams had 8 steals. Tennessee had 6 blocks in this game versus A&M's 1. And there is one block that stands out to me above the others, and that was one that Freddie Dilion had.
I seen it. Oh, Freddie Dillon one to the cheap seat, son.
Well, man, he knocked it out, and it went like straight over to Jordan Gainey in the corner, which is like right at that same corner we sit in over there at the Food City Center. Well, Cam Carr, man, I am so excited to watch this kid play more ball because
Oh,
he got
dude.
up.
I seen it. I seen it.
You knew that I was excited over that. You knew I
Oh,
was,
oh
man.
yeah, man. I was like, I bet Grant's giddy as a schoolgirl right now.
Man, I was. Cam Carr is going to be a special player for Tennessee. It's not going to be this year, but you give that kid, I mean, another year, he's going to be one of the bigger pieces on the team next year. Just wait and see. That's all I'm
Oh,
going to say on that. Because
there's no
Tennessee
denying
loses a
that.
lot from this
Right.
team. So,
There's no denying that, man. Like,
well,
especially the way Ricky Dell develops the guys, you know?
well, Cam, JP, Freddie, those guys are going to be playing really big minutes for you next year. It kind of reminds me, and I'm not going to compare it to this class specifically because this class, I mean, you've still got 2 guys that are playing from it. But that class that came in 2019, 2020 season that had Josiah Jordan James, Santiago Vescovi, Devontae Gaines, and Olivier Comwa, you got a lot of really good minutes out of 3 of those guys for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get a lot of really good minutes out of this class that is the current freshman on the team.
Uh,
Diving into a little bit more, Tennessee led this game by 35 points at the largest, which is the margin of victory for the Volunteers. A&M led by 2 points in this game. They really didn't get a handle on anything. I mean, they played a great first 18 minutes, and then after that, they were on the plane going back to College Station.
yeah, they mailed it in early after last night. They didn't seem interested in it after the ball sort of got hot there at the end of the second half, and they just was like, well, guys, we beat them 2 weeks ago. That was good enough.
Yeah. Well, and man, one other thing I want to say before we jump on to the next part too, and I'm going to go back to that dunk that Cam had in that game. My favorite part, because I watched the game twice. Everybody knows that about me already. I watch it live and then I always watch it on a replay. Well, I watched the replay last night, and man, after Cam got that dunk, the ESPN panned over to the A&M bench, and a couple of them were like, "Just get me the hell out of here."
Seen it. They were like, no, no, I don't want to be seen right now. Get me off of this TV screen right now.
They were like, "Get me the hell back to Texas." They're like, "We want to
Yes.
get out of the best T state. We want to go to little brother over there that, this great state had to save us." So,
Right.
it was just a lot of fun at the Food City Center on Saturday night. Moving on to the next man, I mean, and we've got a lot to dive into from this right here. In 31 minutes, Jonas Adu went 9 of 14 from the floor. He had 14 boards, 6 on the offensive end, 8 on the defensive end, 3 blocks, 18 points.
Man.
Good
Well, just
Lord, man.
what a night, man, for our boy. Like, that was just wild. He put
Well,
on last night.
it's not even just that, man. If Jonas Adu continues to play this way, Tennessee is going to win any sort of championship that is in their future. If Jonas Adu falls back off, I mean, man, Tennessee's not going to win anything, and it's just that simple. Tennessee
It,
still has all the aspirations they set out at the beginning of the year currently in front of them. You can still win in Nashville and win an SEC title. You can still win the SEC regular season title. Hell, you can win a national championship still. It all starts with the regular season, moves to the SEC tournament, moves to the big dance. And Tennessee has the opportunity to be able to win in those if Jonas Adu does what he can do. Next guy on the list right here, Dalton Connect in 28 minutes, 50% from the field, 4 of 9 from 3, 6 of 7 from the line. Much better right there, Dalton.
yes.
Much, much better. 7 boards, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, 24 points.
Yes, 100%, man. Tennessee's got the big three. They've got that big three that they need. We've said it before.
Yeah,
They're going to go as far as Jonas will carry them. They're going to go as far as their big men will carry them.
I disagree on that. I think Tennessee goes as far as all of the big three is willing to do, including Ncaa on that, because you still have to get the points from Dalton. You have to get the productivity from Z that you've been getting. And then Jonas has to just say, hey, I am the best center in the SEC. It's time for me to get mine. Moving on to the next guy in the big three right here in 35 minutes, which the number's still just a tad bit too high for me, but it's better than what it has been. Zakai Ziegler had 35 minutes, 3 of 10 from the field. Not a good shooting night for Zakai at all. Got 2 of 2 from the line, 9 rebounds, all on the defensive end, 14 assists, 0 turnovers,
My man.
9 points.
Man, he was a point and a rebound away from a triple double.
Doesn't that kill you just thinking about that right there?
I'll tell you who else is mad about it's Ice Cube. Just about messed around and got a triple double.
Man, man, that's your big three right there. And if Tennessee gets this kind of productivity, and when I'm saying productivity, 18 points, 14 boards for Jonas, 24 points for Dalton, 7 boards for Dalton, 9 points for Z, but then he got 9 boards and 14 assists with 0 turnovers. That's Tennessee's recipe for competing for a national championship.
Right. And well, when I say they're going to go as far as their big men's going to carry them as far as the big three. Tobe, the last couple of games has proven he's capable of having the type of night that Adu had last night. That what I'm getting at is I think you're consistent with your production from Connect and Ziegler. Jonas has disappeared a few times lately.
So up and down on what he
Yes.
can and can't do. But Jonas has played good ball over the past 2 weeks.
Oh, he has. And if what I'm getting at though is if that third man in that big three is consistent, it don't matter who it is. The two of the big three are consistent.
Well, Tennessee's recipe for a national championship that's not Jonas Adu doing what he did on Saturday night. It comes down to Dalton and Z doing what they do every single night. And then one player, it doesn't have to be anybody, but any other random player just has to step up for that night. Whether if it's Josiah Jordan James, Santiago Vescovi, Jordan Gainey, Jemiah Mashak, Tobe Awaka, you have to have one of those guys have a good night for Tennessee to win games. And that's what Tennessee's really going to be looking for on this next stretch right here. Diving into the 2 fifth-year guys right here, Santiago Vescovi, 22 minutes, 2 of 5 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, which that 3 that he hit going into halftime was the backbreaker.
It was, and that should have been an and one.
It should have been, but it's neither here nor there. You can say, oh, well, ifs, ands, and buts, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, it wasn't. It should have been, but it wasn't.
Right.
But you still got 5 boards from Santi, 2 assists from Santi. I mean, he gave you 1 steal, 6 points. I mean, I'm done beating the dead horse at this point. I mean, there's only so much I can say when it does come to Santiago Vescovi. Another guy that we've been very critical of this year, but for good reason. Josiah Jordan James, 26 minutes, 3 of 8 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line, 5 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 8 points. Really, really good game for Josiah, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is with those two, if they're anything, whether it's good or bad, they're consistent.
Ain't that the damn truth, man? Those two guys have been two of the most consistent players Tennessee's ever had in their 5 years with the team. It's just, what consistency is it? Is it good consistency or is it bad consistency? And you don't know which one you're going to get out of them, unfortunately.
Consistently inconsistent.
Well, and here's one thing I want to bring up to you on this too, man. And I want all of our viewers and listeners to just think about what I'm about to say here for a second. Josiah Jordan James hitting that free throw line jumper with about 3 minutes left in the first half was the turning point of the entire game. The dagger was what Santi hit. But like, as a fan, I'm sitting over there in section 112 and I'm just like, I don't like what's going on. I'm texting you, and we're not going to
Yeah.
talk about what I was texting you about because I just was not happy with anything I saw. But then Josiah hits that shot, and I'm like, okay, it's time to calm down now. When Josiah is hitting a shot, whenever Tennessee can't get anything going, it makes you feel so damn good about what's going on.
He has a way sometimes, even if he doesn't do much on the stat sheet, he has a way of hitting a shot to ignite a run, get it going, and the team just seems to feed off of him. Whether it's him still getting a steal, going down the court, making a good dish, and finishing on the other end. He does something a lot of the times to start a run for Tennessee, I feel like.
Well, and I'll say this, man, too. What Josiah and Santi do doesn't always show up in the box score,
Right.
but they still impact winning on this team or losing on this team. I mean, hell, they can both have such a bad night that Tennessee just has no opportunity to win the game. But when those guys play good ball, it's really hard to beat Tennessee. And I think they both played pretty well last night for the most part.
Well, you and I were texting during the game, man, and it was like Santi's having a decent game. He's not a liability this game.
No, and I never want to use the term liability when it comes to Santi because
Right.
without Santi, Tennessee's not as good as they
Right.
are. It's just plain and simple. But Tennessee plays its best basketball when Santiago Vescovi is doing Santi type things. Well, we've not seen a lot of that this year. There's been a couple of games where he's just popped off, and then there's been other games where it's like, okay, where's the guy that we all love? And
Right.
one thing I'm going to say about Santi too, and not as much Josiah, because I don't think Josiah is having that bad of a year. But when it comes to Santi, this year Santiago Vescovi is not going to be the Santiago Vescovi that I remember.
No, no. It sounds like too he's had a tough year. I mean, if you're that close with a family member that passes away, and it's not making an excuse, but it's hard to get over that and and be a student athlete and this, that, and the other, all that at the same time. That's a lot.
Well, it is, man, and I mean, I'll put myself in his shoes for a second. I mean, you and I both have lost family members that we've been close to.
Yeah.
It's hard to get over, man. I mean, it took me 2-3 years to get over the one that I lost that was really close to me. So, and you're never really over it. You just learn to deal with it more than
Right.
anything. And my heart goes out to the guy because he's a very loved guy inside of the state of Tennessee. I just
Yes.
hate that this year is not going how he wants it to, or the rest of us. Moving
One
on to the next guy right here on the list. Go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna say, no, you're good. You're good. I want to say one thing though. Would not in the least bit surprise me. Say we get, well, maybe it would. I don't know, but I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go ahead and call my shot. Say we get to Sweet 16 and we got to have a big moment. I'm gonna say Josiah Jordan James gets it together as soon as the tournament starts. SEC tournament, he's balling out from there on out. Santi comes through big for us. Storybook ending for the year for him. Not a good year, but I'm gonna call it. I want to see it.
Well, if that happens, the shit year that it's been turns into a great year because the results that happen in March are all people remember. Nobody will remember Texas A&M on the 10th or the 24th of February. Nobody's going to remember that if Santiago Vescovi can do what he needs to do. So moving on to the next guy, and he will be the only bench guy, well, one of two bench guys I talk about today. Tobe Awaka in 17 minutes, 5 of 6 from the field, 2 of 4 from the line, 1 offensive rebound, 5 defensive rebounds for a total of 6 on the night, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 fouls, 12 points. Tobe Awaka, man, I mean, I have ridden him harder than anybody else on the team this year, and it's really, really good to see Tobe get doing these type of things because he has so much potential, and that's why I've been so tough on him and saying he's unplayable at points because he's not been willing to go out there and do what he needs to do. Well, I think a lot of that is Tobe Awaka is not a natural center. He's more of a natural power forward. And if he's forced to play that 5 position, he can do it, but he's undersized. Well, you put him in at the 4, it's more of a natural position for him. And him and Jonas can both say, okay, I don't have to do it all on my own tonight. Jonas can say, hey, I can body up whoever I need to. I can play great defense, try to block the shots. Tobe, go get the damn rebound.
Yeah. Well, there's okay. I'm going to pose this question to you. Over the last, let's say, 4 games, who has shown the most upside to you out of everybody that comes off the bench?
Everybody who comes off the bench.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. It's really hard to go with a guy not named Jordan Gainey because of how good he's been. I mean, that game against LSU, he had a great game. He's had a lot of other really good games, but he's so Jekyll and Hyde. He's so inconsistent. He'll go on a heater for about 2 weeks and he'll disappear for a month. Tobe Awaka, I mean, and it's just been 2 games that I've not been critical of him on, but Tobe's played really good ball recently. I think I have to go with Jordan Gainey though on that.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Jordan Gainey. I mean, my God, look at the stat line down here. The man was 100% from the field on 1 shot.
Yeah, I mean,
Just kidding.
The problem with that is though, and I will talk on Jordan Gainey for just a second. If you're 1 for 1 from the field, why the hell aren't you taking more shots?
Right? Yeah. Well, he only played 14 minutes last night though, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah, but I mean, you've also got to look at it this way. Meshack took up a lot of minutes, who's the other guy I want to talk about who came off the bench because they put Meshack in to guard Wade Taylor. Well, man, Wade Taylor started out 3 for 3 on threes. He had 9 points, the first 9 points for the Aggies. He scored 2 points for the rest of the entire game and ended with a total of 11. So that's all on Jemiah Meshack right there.
Yeah, Meshack wasn't having it. Meshack took him to the shack, son.
He did. I mean, and Jemiah Meshack's stats right here: 18 minutes, 2 of 4 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, which was a horrible air ball. I mean, he's not the best 3-point shooter on the team, Jordan. I think that has gone to bed.
I want to hear it.
Unfortunately. Yeah, well, it's gone to bed. 1 rebound, 1 steal, I mean, 2 fouls, but he does a lot of things that don't really show up in the box score. So, once again, Tennessee shot from the field 52.4%. 35% from 3, 72.2% from the line, but albeit you only had 18 attempts from the line.
Right. One play last night that really stood out to me though. Adu put that. I think it was Garcia put that boy on a poster, son, on one of those dunks. I mean, it was nasty.
Well, that one where he dunked over like 3 different people, man, just a
Yeah.
great one to have right there. Diving in to what A&M was able to do, and I'm only going to talk about just a couple of guys, mainly Terrence Radford and Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor killed Tennessee when Tennessee played A&M in College Station back on February the 10th. Wade Taylor last night had 33 minutes, 3 of 12 from the field, 3 of 10 from 3, 2 of 3 from the line, 11 points, 5 assists, so that's good, but he had 3 turnovers as well.
Pedestrian.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. Terrence Radford, 25 minutes, 4 of 16 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3, 1 of 1 from the line. He ended his night with 4 boards, 2 assists, 11 points. And then another guy, too, man, that Anderson Garcia kid, who is Dennis Rodman of college basketball. I mean, the kid can rebound better than anybody I've seen at the college level. He only had 8 boards last night, which I mean is a good night, but a guy who specializes in that, you would expect him to get more.
Well, man, he doubled that up whenever we played him 2 weeks ago. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's good to see that number go back down, but I think a lot of that has to do with what Tobe Awaka was able to do. Once again, A&M shot 27.3% from the field, 20.6% from the 3-point line, and 53.3% from the free throw line. Just really an all-around bad performance from the Texas A&M Aggies. Leaders
Oh,
of the game for the Volunteers and Aggies in points, Dalton Connect led Tennessee with 24 points. Terrence Radford led the Aggies with 11. Also, Wade Taylor had 11 as well. Rebounds, Coleman the third. I cannot recall his first name to save my life. Do you remember that one, Jordan?
we'll call him Harry.
Harry Coleman, sure.
Harry
8
Coleman.
boards. Jonas Adu, 14 boards. Assist, Wade Taylor had 5 with 3 turnovers in 33 minutes, where Zakai Ziegler led the Volunteers with 14 assists, 0 turnovers, and 35 minutes.
But
What
Zakai
a
had
day.
he had more assists by himself as they did as a team, didn't he?
Yeah, man, I think he did, honestly. Let
I
me
think it was 14 to 11.
Let me pull that up and stat check that real quick for just 1 second. But Jordan, I mean, kind of tell me what do you think about Tennessee's long term ability to be able to cut down nets? Because we've seen 2 different performances in this past week.
Well, okay, so I'm going to say this. I feel like now they've somewhat proven it don't matter how you play them. They can win, but we talked about it before, man. Tennessee does not like being bodied. Don't
No,
like being played physical. If
well,
you
and so
punch us in
that
the mouth first, mm-mm.
Well, and that's one thing Tennessee has had a very, very big issue with all year long. It's if the referees allow teams to get physical with Tennessee, Tennessee can't respond right away, which is really odd because normally a Rick Barnes coach team doesn't have those type of issues. Also, you are correct. A&M only had 11 assists on the entire night, and Z had 14. So
Swoosh.
Z just killed it right
You
there,
just
man.
dished me another one right there.
So a couple of things that I do want to bring up for everybody on here is the referees were not good for the first half last night. They finally called the game how it should have been called in the second half, and that's why we saw Tennessee do what Tennessee did. Now, that's not sitting here blaming the referees. I'm not that type of person. At the end of the day, it's your team's responsibility to go out there and respond, regardless of how the game is called. Now, does that concern you in March if a team can get physical with Tennessee? The calls aren't basically they're not calling the fouls so that how they should. Is that something to be concerned about when it gets to March and it's a one and done? You lose and your ass is back in Knoxville.
Grant, buddy, I think it is because I mean, you can in March, you don't have time to sit and think, well, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to respond. You've got to. You've got to respond right then.
Well,
You
and
don't.
that's what I'm worried about because some of these coaches are looking at this and they're saying, "Oh, well, we just body up Tennessee. We really, really, really push on them." Hell, and if the referees aren't calling it, we know we can win this game.
Right. But also as a player, I feel like you have to know, okay, you get a feel for how this game's going to be called the first 5 minutes of the game. You adjust how you're playing then, not go into halftime and be like, all right, got my Gatorade, got my wristbands on, got my Jordans on. We're going out here, we're going to strap it up, you know?
Sir, they cannot wear Jordans. It's a Nike school.
Oh, well,
They got to
you know
wear
what
those
I'm saying.
KDs. They got the power T on them right there.
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
Got
I
to
was
wear that Rick Barnes alumni shoe right there.
right.
But,
Rick
I
Barnes
mean,
trash
that's just
fit.
something that would be a concern for me for the team long term, because if a team is able to put a body on Tennessee and really kind of control what is going on in the paint and in the post, I'm scared for what the team can do. I'm hoping that that's not something that we have to do an episode talking about because it's going to hurt if that's what we have to talk about. But with that being said, I mean, we've gone over a lot. And one last thing I really want to talk about too is Wade Taylor and Terrence Radford, man, whenever Tennessee played down in College Station on February the 10th, those two guys combined for 53 points against the Vols. What did they combine for last night? 22. That's your difference in the game right there. That's all I'm going to say right there.
For sure.
Now, here's one other thing too, because Texas A&M has fallen off of the last 4 in, and they've moved to the first 4 out now when it comes to bracketology. If Texas A&M does not make the tournament, they will be the first team ever to have 6 quad one wins and not make the NCAA tournament.
because of all those quad 2 losses they've got. They've got more quad 2 losses than they do quad 1 wins, don't they?
Yeah, they do. You're right. It's just it sucks though. Like I mean, it goes and shows the depth of what the SEC is, honestly, more than anything.
I agree with that. It also kind of tells me too, though, that Texas A&M it can either play way up to their opponent because they had before they got Tennessee, they had strung a couple of good games together against tougher opponents.
They sure have, and it just it sucks for them. It doesn't. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Neither are you, and neither is anybody in Vol Nation. But it's just kind of crazy that a team can have 6 quad 1 wins and still be left out of the tournament, which it's looking like is going to happen for the first time ever. So, Jordan, man, and we've texted back and forth on this, and neither one of us can agree. So, we're going to do player of the game a little bit differently today. How does that sound to
Oh,
you?
that sounds great. What are we going to do?
So, there are 3 guys who could be player of the game in this.
Oh, oh,
We're going to start bench cut them, man. Start
oh!
bench cut your player of the game.
Don't you tease me?
Oh, I ain't teasing you, bro. This is some real shit right here.
Ah,
So,
just the tip.
there we go. There you go. So, 3 guys. I want you to start bench cut who your player of the game would be, and I think we're going to have different answers.
Okay.
Start bench cut Dalton Connect with his 24 points, 50% from the field, 7 boards. Jonas Adu with his double-double, or Zakai Ziegler with his near triple-double.
Start Ncaa with his near triple double. Bench Jonas with his double double. Even though it was impressive, I'm cutting Dalton. I'm sorry, I am. I hate to, but man, if we did it, if we gave it to him every week, there wouldn't be no damn point in doing this and doing the segment.
You're not wrong on that, man. So I'm going to start Jonas. I think what Jonas did last night didn't exactly show up in the stat sheet. There was a lot of different things that he did that really helped out Tennessee in this basketball game. So I'm going to start Jonas. I'm going to bench Zakai, which, man, I've went back and forth on it all day long between the two. I'm like, Zakai will be the start. No, Jonas will be the start. I'm going to bench Zakai right here because I think what Jonas did was a little bit more important. And it's hard to say that either one of them didn't do anything important. And that's not what I'm saying right here. It's just hard to pick between the two. I am going to cut Dalton as well, but it's really hard to cut the guy once again with 24 points and shoots 50% from the field. I mean,
it is.
And he's the future SEC player of the year. I mean, let's just be realistic when it comes to that this year. I don't know anybody else who could take that from him.
No, I mean, the only other one that might even be kind of close is Mark Sears. But I mean, that's not happening.
Well, after that piss poor performance that they had at Rupp Arena on Saturday, I think that's gone out the window now, which still they didn't play a bad game, but we'll talk about that in the next segment. So, man, is it milk carton time?
I think it's milk carton time. Who we got?
We're going to go with Buzz Williams because, man, honestly, I'm kind of worried about him. And the reason why I'm worried about him, he didn't step over that line yesterday, really.
No,
and
I didn't
that's
see
not
him
like
at half
Buzz.
court.
It's not like Buzz, man. And the UT student section, and I'll take us to break on this. The UT student section had one of my favorite chants last night that I've seen at a basketball game. F the glasses. F the glasses. Loved it because he took the glasses off.
Oh.
Yeah, he took them off halfway through the game and put them on his seat and didn't ever pick them back up.
Well, he didn't want to see no more. He was like, I'm done.
Do you blame him? I wouldn't want to see that either. But Jordan, we've still got a lot more to cover in this episode right here. How about we take a break, jump into SEC and a little bit of March Madness tournament breakdown, and then I kind of want to talk about the mess that Tennessee beat the NCAA in the courtroom on Friday, and then maybe chat a little bit of Basevols.
Let's do it. Let's do it. This next segment is brought to you by Three Kings of Cardboard, the go-to spot to upgrade your sports memorabilia collection. Check out their Facebook group and eBay at Three Kings of Cardboard. I have dealt with them personally and will not deal with anybody else. My favorite item from them is my Jalen Wright 1-of-1 Bowman U Superfractor that they have pulled me. Check out our friends at Three Kings of Cardboard today.
All right, guys, welcome back in. We are going to dive into some SEC with one of the best weekends we've had in the conference in quite a while. Are you ready for it, Jordan?
buddy. If you got if you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Ain't that the damn truth, man? Well, okay, first off, my graphics messed up right here. I'm gonna have to email like Microsoft, bro. This is getting out of hand.
Right?
But maybe it's user error. I don't know. But man, I mean, like I said, we had one hell of a weekend in the Southeastern Conference. So first game I'm going to dive into on the scores of interest is Florida versus Vanderbilt. Florida hosted the Commodores and got a 13-point dub. I mean, man, game was never really in question for the Gators when it came to that one.
No, man. But Vandy's hell of a parlay buster.
Dude, anytime that you're going to bet on a game with Vandy, just take Vandy. Like, I mean, they're going to cover at least, and they're going to hit the over. So why are we even messing with anybody else now at this point?
Right? Take the points in the over. You heard it. You heard it here first on Vol and Out.
Exactly. And that's the non-betting guys saying that. So maybe don't listen. I don't know. We'll see. So man, another game I kind of want to talk into, and this is where my graphic is really messed up, is South Carolina versus Ole Miss. South Carolina finally gets back on the winning ways after 2 straight losses.
Ooh, buddy. Yeah, that's they needed it. They needed it. They're starting to sort of slip a little bit here in the waning weeks of the season.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wonder if South Carolina was a team that peaked a little bit too early. I mean, they were ranked as high as like what, eighth, I want to say is what it was. And then they
Yeah.
dropped all the way back down to 20th after 2 straight losses. So it's good to see South Carolina get back on the winning track because that makes the loss that the Volunteers took look a lot better with South Carolina getting back to their winning ways.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But and the thing about these last two losses, I mean, outside of Auburn, they weren't really good teams.
No, I mean, like that's what's crazy. I mean, who was it that they lost to? I think it was
LSU
LSU.
by a
Yeah,
point.
yeah, man. I mean that has no business right there. Like LSU should not be beating South Carolina, who is one of the top 4 teams in the Southeastern Conference. Moving on to the next game, and I think we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this. Good Lord, what did Kentucky have in the water before that game to have the offensive output that they had?
HGH.
Dude, I mean, it's something going on in the water up in Lexington right now. This Kentucky team, man, I don't want to say this and jinx it, but have they finally figured out how to get it rolling?
They may have, dude. I tell you, man. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. I think they're about to start getting it going. Now, that being said, though, last couple 3 games up until Alabama rolled into town, they had been playing a little defense. But had they really been playing defense, or were they just playing really bad shooting teams? I think it's been a little bit of both, but I think it's been more of the teams they've been playing haven't been shooting the ball well.
I agree with you on that. I think that Alabama, I mean, okay, let's just say this. Defense was optional in this game. I mean,
Oh,
diving into the stats from this game right here, Kentucky shot 63.1% from the field. Alabama shot 56.7% from the field. Kentucky shot 54.2% from 3, where Alabama shot 35.3%. 10 turnovers for Kentucky, 16 for the Crimson Tide, 26 boards for the Wildcats, and 28 boards for the Tide.
man, 63% from the field.
Like I said, defense was optional in this game, man. I mean, diving into it, Kentucky took 65 shots in this game, too. They hit 41 of them. Alabama took 60 and hit 34 of them. Like, how does
Hotter
that
than
even
Tomcat
happen?
balls, son.
I mean, man, you want to talk about a game that would have been fun to go to?
Yeah.
If you have no rooting interest, you don't hate either one of the teams, which I guess it's not a game for a Tennessee fan to go to. But good Lord, man. I mean, you want to talk about great basketball being played in this one. And like Kentucky, okay, so another thing on this too. I mean, Kentucky assisted on 24 of the shots that were made out of the 41. Also from 3, they shot 13 of 24.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, Alabama, their struggles on the road this year have been very well documented.
Oh, yeah.
So you chalk it up to that, whatever. They'll be ready for Tennessee Saturday whenever game day and everybody rolls in. But man, dude, the betting line on that game was 2.5 points. Kentucky was favored. I thought, you know what, man, the way Alabama's been playing, I'm going to take those 2.5. No, and
Hell
then
no.
the over under was set at 173. I didn't touch it. Because I was like, yeah, Kentucky's been playing defense, but this is one of those games where, It's two good teams. They might both decide to buckle down. No, they smoked it.
Oh man. Well, yeah, the over under was set at 176.5. And I mean,
Oh,
they smoked that out of the water. I mean, dude, it wasn't even close to that. And like, so for Kentucky right here, and this is what my biggest concern is for the game coming up here in about what is it, roughly like 2 weeks right now.
yeah.
Kentucky had really good production from their bench. Big Z, this Vladimir Avicic, 18 points. Dude hasn't even played in a while, and he did that.
Dude, the Water Boy
Then,
scored in that game.
yeah. Well, then Dillingham or Dillingham. I mean, let's just be realistic. That kid is a baller,
Dude,
dude.
he when he gets hot, he is unconscious.
Well, he shot 5 of 9 from the field in 25 minutes, 16 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover.
He does it all, man.
Yeah. I mean, and then you still had great production from some starters too. I mean, you had Edwards, who finally came back from an injury, 28 points, and then you still had Antonio Reeves with 24 points. Like, if Kentucky can do this, man, watch out in Nashville. That's all
Oh
I'm going to
yeah.
say right there, because it's two teams that really show up in Nashville whenever the tournament comes out here. It's Tennessee and Kentucky. No other fans really show up because it's too far for anybody else.
Well, that's true, but honestly, they could play the SEC tournament in Mexico. Kentucky's going to show up.
Yeah, well, I mean, what was it? They used to call it the Big Blue Invitational, and now it's the Big Blue and Big Orange Invitational is what I'm going to start calling
Right.
it.
Well, and then it's funny because every time Kentucky loses in the first round, it's empty the rest of the weekend.
Well, dude, so like, I mean, I live right out here. I live a mile from the arena. Last year, when Kentucky got beat, fans are walking out the door and they're just like, screw this. We're going back home. We're going north of the border. We're done with this.
Yeah.
And like, dude, one year when I came out here, when I still lived in Knoxville for the tournament, Tennessee beat Kentucky. It was the 2019 tournament. So it was whenever Lamonte hit the shot over Kentucky. Kentucky fans are walking out. That was back in the days of paper tickets still, and they would come in like a little booklet. Kentucky fans are dropping them on the ground outside of the arena with still tickets left in them
Mm-mm-mm.
because they're that angry. I just love it, man. I
I
love
do
making
too.
them mad. I love
They
making them mad.
they really are like the Kentucky basketball fans. Most of them, not all of them. Our buddy Jay's cool, but man, most Kentucky basketball fans are like a lot of Alabama football fans. They can't handle losing, especially
Well,
to Tennessee.
no. I'm going to keep my opinion to myself right here. It's just about Kentucky. I mean, lots of great people up there, really good, passionate fan base.
Sure.
But if they lose to Tennessee,
Oh,
everything is coming down. And Tennessee's a better program. I mean, I don't understand the upset that they get whenever they lose to a better team. It just doesn't make sense to me.
honestly, I think it's a lot like how we get with losing to Alabama in football. It's the fan base. I don't think it's the program. I think it's the fan base.
Yeah, well, and now they want to fire Cal, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, who are you going to get that's better? Nobody.
No, keep Slick Suit. Keep
Yeah,
him.
I mean, and I want him to stay. So, like, and this is one thing, and then I'm going to move on after this. The rivalry is better because of Rick Barnes and John Calipari. I want them to keep
Absolutely.
Calipari because, one, it's a great rivalry. It's the best rivalry in the SEC in basketball,
Oh, no
bar
doubt.
none. Nothing else comes close. Second of all, we can beat Calipari. We've proven it time and time and time again. Keep Calipari there for the sake of Tennessee fans if you're not going to do it for anything else. So
Keep
moving
him
on
there.
to the next one, Auburn, ranked 14th in the country, went down to Athens, Georgia. Well, I guess up to Athens, Georgia, technically, if we're going geographically. But they got a 21-point dub, 97-76.
Solid win. Solid win. Getting them.
Yeah, I mean, man, that Georgia team is not really that good, but Tennessee had a lot of struggles with them when they had to play them. What was it? I mean, about a month ago.
Yeah, the Tennessee got lucky and snuck out of there with a win, thanks to some late connections.
Man, you ain't wrong. And Jonas Adu had a really good game in that one too. So
Yeah,
it,
but
it kind of puts you on a little bit of a concern watch for Wednesday night.
I think the concern watch is going to be there regardless of what happened in that game. Auburn could have lost that game like that, and it would still be there.
Well, it's kind of like what we're going to talk about with Ben from the Jungle Podcast. And think his buddy Ryan's going to jump on with him as well.
Heck yeah.
But Auburn is the second biggest game of the year for Tennessee.
Yeah,
or third. It's the third biggest game. The first biggest game of the year is when you play Kentucky in Knoxville. The
no doubt.
second biggest game of the year is when you play Kentucky in Lexington.
Mhm.
Third biggest is when you play Auburn. Anytime. It doesn't matter where it is.
You know what? I would argue just for win quality, going to Lexington is bigger than winning in Knoxville. I would argue it. I'm not saying that's the truth.
It's hard to
Depending,
win there, though. I mean, you did this
that's what I'm
year,
saying. That's
but you've
that's
only
why
won.
I'm saying it.
Yeah, well, you've only won in Lexington 8 times in program history. So how do you build off of it? That's kind of what I'm saying right here. And I think this year's win in Rupp, I mean, it's probably the biggest win you're going to have all year long, unless you are able to get to Phoenix. I mean, let's be
Right.
realistic when it comes to that, or you're able to cut down nets in Nashville. And I mean, you could be playing Kentucky and Nashville once again, or you could be playing this Auburn team if they can get past the first round in the tournament. I mean, we'll have to see on that.
Man, speaking of that, buddy, I'll tell you what. I think our first 3 seeds in the SEC tournament are pretty well set. I really do. I think it's going to be
Well, hang on that real quick. Let's go to the next slide, and then I want to ask you about that.
okay.
So SEC standings have gone crazy. I mean, there was not as much parity going into Saturday, and here we are. We have got ties for first place, third place, and fifth place. Your Tennessee Volunteers and the Alabama Crimson Tide are tied for first place, but Tennessee is controlling first place with the overall record of 21-6 and the head-to-head against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Tied for third place, you have the Auburn Tigers and South Carolina Gamecocks. Both are 10-4 in conference, where South Carolina is 22-5 in the regular season, where Auburn is 21-6, but Auburn won the head-to-head, so they do have the advantage there. Moving on to fifth place, you've got a tie with the Florida Gators and the Kentucky Wildcats. Both are 9-5 in conference and 19-8 on the season, but Florida won the head-to-head matchup, so they control that right there. Jordan, carry on with your point. Who are the top 3 in the SEC right now?
The top 3 in the SEC right now are exactly who's there, and you can go in any particular order. I think.
Okay, so let's do this then. Just for poops and giggles right here.
Hoops and giggles.
Start bench cut, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn. Who is winning the SEC regular season?
Tennessee, they control their own destiny. I'm starting it. Tennessee wins out, goes 4-0. They could go 3-1 and still win it, depending on who that loss is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bench Auburn because they've got an easier schedule. I'm going to cut Bama.
I mean, man, I think carbon copy on that right there. Tennessee does control their own destiny. The one I would look out for would be the South Carolina game. I just think it's a bad matchup for Tennessee. I think you can have a lot right there that can go that way, but I think your top 3 are solidified with any order of Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. That fourth place is going to be kind of interesting for that double bye in Nashville. It could be South Carolina, Florida, or Kentucky. And I mean, man, right now, I'm going to give the edge to South Carolina slightly, but I think Kentucky is going to have something to say about that before the season is over with.
Let's go. Let's do it Vol and Out style. Gun to your head. Start bench cut. Who's your fourth place team? South Carolina, Florida, Kentucky.
South Carolina, Florida, Kentucky. I'm going to start South Carolina. I'm going to bench Kentucky. I'm going to cut Florida, but it would not surprise me one bit to see Florida in the fourth place spot.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go start Kentucky, bench Florida, cut Carolina, simply because Carolina's not playing their best ball right now, man. They're not. They are
Yeah, but
not.
if
And
they get
those
that
two
win
behind
against
them,
Tennessee, I mean,
I don't.
if they get that win against Tennessee in what is it, in a week now, I mean, that changes the whole season right there. And I've been on record saying it. Tennessee does not match up well against South Carolina. So
You're right.
how
You're right.
does
You
that go
have.
that way?
Here's my thought, though. We had the same kind of conversation about Texas A&M to an extent about how that was a bad matchup. Tennessee come out with blood on their mind Saturday night. And granted, it was at home. I still think it's going to be the same type of game against South Carolina because South Carolina had no business winning that game.
They
Tennessee
didn't.
played Tennessee played awful, but now that's not to discredit them though. They did what they should have done whenever they played Tennessee. muck it up, they hit us in the mouth. We've said it before. We'll keep saying it. They do not, Tennessee does not like being played physical because they are a physical team. Just like a team that presses a lot, presses hard, does not like to be pressed hard. There, that's just my thought process on it.
I
I'm
mean,
riding
you're
the
right on
Kentucky
that.
wagon. I'm riding the Kentucky wagon for the fourth seed, but
It's hard to argue against Kentucky. It's hard to argue against South Carolina. The only one that I think doesn't have any business being there is Florida. But I mean, Florida's still a really good basketball team, and they're playing just as well as anybody is in the country right now. So it's tough to cut them, but I think you kind of have to right there. But that has been your look around the SEC. So I think it's time that we talk a little bit of bracket stuff right here. And I just want to talk about the SEC today. This is Joe Lunardi's team seeding for March Madness on SEC. He's got Tennessee as a 2 seed, Alabama as a 3 seed, Auburn as a 4, Kentucky as a 5, South Carolina as a 6, Florida as a 7, Mississippi State as a 9. Texas A&M is sitting in the first 4 out, and Ole Miss is in the next 4 out.
ooh, man.
Is there anything on this that kind of surprises you? Because there's a lot that surprises me on what I see right here.
Florida, the 6 seed, Mississippi State, the 9 seed in.
I don't think Mississippi State has any business being in the tournament,
That's what I'm saying.
honestly.
I don't either. I would rather see Texas A&M in with those quad wins. How can you look quad 2 losses? They suck. I get it, but if you've got that many quad 1 wins, I think that's got to offset at some point.
Well, it should, and like it goes back to a point I made earlier in the show today. If A&M misses the tournament, they will be the first team ever to have 6 quad 1 wins and not make the NCAA tournament, which is just crazy. A&M is going to have to make up some ground in Nashville.
For sure, they need to go at least. Okay, so they need to go to at least the semis lock them in. I don't know if they'll get there though.
They very well could. It just depends on what team shows up. The biggest surprise to me on this, man, South Carolina is way better than a 6 seed.
Yeah, that was one for me too. Florida, the 7 seed. That's about right. That's about
Well,
right.
Florida started off so slow in the year.
And man, think about this though. They're in that 7 seed. They'll get the 11 seed matchup. Is the 10 seed? Excuse me.
Yeah, it'd be a
Florida
10.
Florida could be a dangerous 7 seed, dude.
They could be, and I
Dangerous.
think South Carolina would be a dangerous 6 seed. I mean, you get the 6 versus what, 12 right there?
Yeah, but you look at it, man.
No,
How
6
can you?
versus 11. Sorry.
Yeah, six versus 11. Five. It's 6 and 11, 5-12. So think about this though. How how could you put them ahead in seeding ahead of 3 teams that have beat them?
It's hard
Kentucky.
to, man.
I think that's what I think that's what that tells me.
Yeah, and then Kentucky is a 5 seed. I think that that's way too high for Kentucky right now with how they've played on the whole year. Now that this is recency bias right here. I think that's what it is exactly, but I mean still just kind of crazy right there. Tennessee, I think, can move up to a 1 seed. I think Alabama could possibly move up to a 2 seed, depending on what's done throughout the rest of the regular season and the work that they could do in Nashville. But man, I mean, like I said, South Carolina is a 6 seed, way underseeded. I mean, South Carolina should be sitting at a 3 or a 4 at worst.
But are you going to drop Auburn and Kentucky behind them? I mean,
I would
Auburn
drop
drubbed them.
Kentucky behind them.
Kentucky beat them though.
South Carolina beat Kentucky.
Did they? Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
South
okay.
Carolina beat Kentucky because they had that huge matchup in Columbia, and it was the
You're right.
blackout game, and I
Yeah,
think South Carolina won that game by like 20.
you're right.
So
You're right.
I,
Okay,
I mean, like I said, I could just see
I'll give you that
Kentucky
one.
dropping behind South Carolina, move South Carolina up to a 4 seed, and I think that's good. I think Auburn stays at a 4 seed. Tennessee and Alabama, I think both could move up on the lines. It just kind of depends on what all's able to do. And then here's one other thing I want to talk about before we move on to doing what we need to do right here. Ole Miss as a next 4 out. Man, they started out, what was it, like 13-0? And then
Yep.
they have just, for lack of a better term, they pooped their pants. I mean, they have just absolutely forgotten what basketball is this later point in the season. Now, going into next year, I think Chris Beard will have them ready to go. But this is just kind of weird for a Chris Beard team to be in the next 4 out because he's too good of a basketball coach for that.
Ole Miss is out of every team on the bottom half of that list. Let's say starting at Florida, Miss State, A&M, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is probably the more surprising of the four from what we've seen, and I think that Ole Miss almost would need to win the SEC tournament at this point,
Yeah, I mean, they
depending
could
on how
work
these
their
last
way
few
in.
games go.
They could work their way into maybe being like one of the first four teams like that plays the like
Playing
what do they
games.
call it? Yeah, the playing games. That's the term I was looking for right there. I think we could maybe see Ole Miss do that if they can get to semifinals, but I just don't see it happening. But I've been shocked before and I could be shocked again, man. I mean, it just is what it is.
It's
But
the
that
beauty
has
of March
been
Madness.
yeah. Well, man, that has been our look around the SEC and bracketology brought to you by our friends at Three Kings of Cardboard. Check them out to give your sports memorabilia collection some love. So, Jordan, we've had a lot go on the Hill. And before we
Oh,
start talking about Auburn, we got to talk about this NCAA, whatever the heck that mess was. So, what do you got for us on this, man?
buddy, the injunction, the Vols win. NCAA's holding that L. So, kind of like we discussed, man, there's not going to be a whole lot come out of this. There's not.
No. I
They
mean,
don't have a leg to stand on.
well, and what bothers me about this more than anything, too, is we were all so hell bent on wanting to see what was going on with this. Well, it's a Friday news dump. That's what it turned into, where nobody's talking about it anymore. I mean, like, it'll be on the radio on Monday here and there, it'll be on TV a little bit, but it's not going to get the national attention that we all thought it would get. And now here's my takeaway that comes from this: the NCAA cannot police NIL any longer. That's what this is saying right here. It goes from the exact opposite of what you wanted, saying, hey, we need rules, we need the guidelines, we want to know what we're supposed to be doing right here. Well, now it's the Wild West. There is no ifs, ands, or buts when it comes to what's going on anymore. It's going to be a free-for-all for every single team in Division I college football.
It's almost to the point now to where you can literally buy your national championships. Alabama's been doing it for years.
Well, it's nothing's changing. I mean, it's been done for forever. Like, you look at it, Georgia bought the past two that they had. I mean,
Right.
Michigan bought the one that they got this past year. Alabama's bought 37 of them, and they're about to buy another one. I mean, and they're going to buy another one from 1919, bro. Like,
And
I
claim
mean,
them.
it's just how they do it, you know?
That's it. They claim it, just like all they like claiming titles, man. It kills me.
It's what they do down there.
Claiming titles, grabbing cousins, and roll tide.
Oh God, why do you guys say RT, man?
RT, RT, bunch of JTs, jive turkeys.
There we go, man. But I mean, what do you kind of take away from this whole NCAA mess? Because I really don't know a better term for it other than a mess.
Um, Man, to be honest with you, it's just one of the. I think the NCAA for one wanted to try to show everybody how big of a stick they got or think they've got, and Tennessee said, little man, that ain't happening. That is
Well, and
not
that's how it
happening
should be.
anymore."
I mean, Donde, I mean, man, what this lady's done for the university and the time that she has been there is just unbelievable. Like, I mean, everybody knows I went to the basketball game on Saturday. I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my dad. I'm like, they've got to bring Donde out today, don't they? To like get all
Right?
the fans riled up. They never did it, which was kind of shocking to me. They missed a great opportunity to get the fans in on something. Is Donde the most loved person on campus right now?
Dude, she's probably numero dos, right behind Dolly Parton. I just
No,
say
I'm
it.
saying on
And this
campus.
on campus, yeah, but in the state of Tennessee, she's got to be number two right now.
I mean,
Especially,
man, I mean, she might even be over Dolly right now.
oh, buddy, you're gonna fire some people up.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's
That's
what I'm trying to do.
my 15th cousin twice removed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, I grew up underneath the Wild Eagle. Dolly Parton is my grandmother. I drink sweet tea out of a bottle when I was a baby. Like, that's just how all East Tennesseans do it, man.
I drink sweet tea out of a mason jar coming down Daredevil Falls. Don't you get me?
There we go, man. I think we can kind of put this NCAA mess to bed now at this point. I mean, I think it's all done until another judge grants the NCAA a restraining order, which I think will probably end up happening. And then at that point, it's going to get dragged out. I mean, I don't think this is the end of it, but it's the end of it for right now.
I do too. I don't think that the NCAA is not just going to go away. But what's going to end up happening is now that this has happened, I feel like it's going to open up the door for what we've discussed before. We're going to either have four super conferences or five, whatever, 4 or 5, and NCAA is just going to be, stuck there holding their unit.
Well, so this is my theory on what's going to happen. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to join forces. It's coming eventually. The SEC is going to say, okay, we want Clemson, we want Florida State. Big Ten's going to say, okay, we want, insert team here from Texas. We want insert team here from the Big 12. We want Colorado. We want Arizona. SEC is going to buy up the regional because the SEC still wants to stay regional. And you're going to move to a super conference between two teams that's going to have, let's say, 50 teams in it. And you're going to get the best 50 teams that way. And it's just going to compete that way. So it's going to be whatever the hell they want to call it. Like they're going to probably split it up into 4 divisions. So the North, South, East, and West. It's going to go that way. Now, there's been reports saying that that's what the Big Ten wants to do, but the SEC is fighting against it because they still want there to be a Southeastern Conference.
That you're if that's what's going to happen, you're almost silly if you do that because the SEC, I don't care. There's 2 conferences, in my opinion, that carry the most weight in college football: SEC, Big Ten. ACC, they had their time, but the Big Ten and the SEC, those are your 2 most well-known conferences, I think.
Yeah, well, and you just need to go and buy up those other teams that bring value, like a Florida State, like a Clemson, like an Arizona, like a Colorado. And, just like what the Big Ten has done. I mean, they took in those 4 West Coast teams being Washington, Oregon, who are the other 2? The 2 California teams, USC and UCLA.
Yeah.
Where, the SEC has bought up Texas and Oklahoma. Well, the SEC still needs to add 2 more. And I think those 2 are Florida State and Clemson. Unless the Big Ten says, hey, we want to get into the SEC footprint, and they throw some money at Clemson to get into South Carolina, and they throw some money at Florida State to get into the state of Florida.
So let's say that goes down, and NC State. I don't think North Carolina would leave, or anybody in South Carolina, Florida, whatever, would be like, hey, yeah, let's go play in the Big Ten. Let's go play in a foot of snow, out in November and see what happens. I think they would rather stick regionally with the SEC. That's me though.
Well, I would rather it stay regionally because then you still get to protect the traditional rivalries at that point. Like,
Right.
Let's say Clemson goes to the Big Ten. Do we start losing the Palmetto Bowl between them and South Carolina, between Florida and Florida State? Do we lose that game then at that point? Like, I mean, that's something we need to think about. And I don't want to lose those rivalries because that Saturday after Thanksgiving is the best
football.
It's the best college football weekend of the year. It
Yes.
sucks Tennessee gets stuck with Little Sister and Vanderbilt in that week. I'd much rather have anybody else in the whole world, but you still get the Egg Bowl. You get the Iron Bowl. You get, the Apple Cup in Washington.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get that anymore. I mean,
The
but
Civil
still,
War in Oregon,
you get all of that. And you're going to go away from stuff like that by joining these other conferences. That's the only thing I don't like about this, I think, because is the Big Ten going to say, no, we want Florida State playing Penn State for the last game of the year? I mean,
Right.
and that's something just to think about right there. I don't know.
I think the best way they'll figure out the best way they think that they could do it. But let's just put it out like this: the Vol and Out way. This is just me thinking. Just draw a line down the middle, a line across the middle. You got the north, the east, or north, south, east, west. You got the compass. Put four conferences, whatever. Go from there.
Yeah, I think we'll start seeing divisions like maybe they'll call it the Big Ten East and the Big Ten West, and then you'll get the SEC East and the SEC West, which, hey, makes a lot of sense because that's what we've always had.
Right.
But I think that's kind of what we'll start seeing here soon because the NCAA has outlived their purpose, and them coming at Tennessee was the worst thing they could have done. I mean, they signed their own death certificate by doing that right there. I mean, the NCAA is going to be gone for college football here in the very near future. I think it sticks around for basketball, sticks around for baseball, swim, dive, underwater basket weaving, whatever else the hell they do over there. But for football, I think we're moving to this 2-team power conference type of deal, and it's not going to be long before we see it. I mean, I think within the next 5 years, we're going to see it.
I think it'll be quicker than that, honestly.
Oh, I do too. I'm saying 5 years just because I know how slow things move sometimes, but teams are motivated now at this point. The NCAA, I mean, if this is the thing on this too. Florida State was stupid for accepting the penalty that they had to accept.
Yeah.
Fight
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Oh,
any
yeah.
judge is going to do it. Like, they were penalized because an offensive coordinator drove a recruit to the collective. And look at where we are. Like, it's so stupid that the NCAA says, no, you can't talk money until you sign with the school. Hell, I ain't signing an offer letter with a company until they talk to me about the compensation I'm going to be getting. It's the same for these student athletes.
Did these same people, do the same thing whenever they were hired by the NCAA? No.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, don't treat that's the thing. They treat these kids like they're stupid, and they're not. A lot of these kids are
They're smarter
smart.
than the people making the decisions.
Yeah, they are. They are. And, good for them. Bottom line, F the NCAA.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just right up there for him, man. Oh, yeah, there. See, there you go. That's kind of how I feel about the NCAA. So, Jordan, I think we can put that one to bed. And just quickly, let's touch on some baseball before we move into Auburn. And I just got confirmation that Brian is going to be joining us as well with Ben from the Jungle Podcast. So make sure
Oh,
you guys stay
awesome.
tuned for that next segment. But Tennessee, I mean, had a really good week on the diamond once again this week. So kind of what all happened on that one, man?
Man, they got ETSU on Thursday. One hit them. Only gave up one hit, won 16-0, 3 homers, had an 11-run third inning.
Well, and so one other thing on that too, run ruled in that game, only played 7 innings.
Yeah, got it in 7. They ended up they did play a series with Albany over the weekend. The Friday game was pretty close. It was 8-5. But again, that third inning, man, that back third of that lineup, man, seems to be really coming alive and hitting the ball well, man. Ended up going 6 for 13. Each guy in the back and that bottom third had 2 hits, 5 RBIs, man.
Oh, man. So they're playing really good ball again. I mean, especially against the Great Danes. I mean, I know that Albany is not a power team. Like, they're not going to be like an LSU or a Florida or a Vanderbilt, but you still got a good team that you're playing against, and you're able to do that. I mean, like, what was it? 8-5 on Friday. Saturday was 21-6, and then Sunday was run ruled once again at 12-0, and they only played 7 innings.
Yeah, man. 21-6 Saturday, though, man. 21-6. 21-6.
Okay, so here's the thing on this. Why did Tennessee only win by 2 touchdowns?
Right? I mean, they didn't cover the spread. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like that's what I'm talking about right there. Here's one thing, probably the most impressive game for me this weekend that the Basevols played, Sunday.
Yeah,
Tennessee had 12 runs in only 6 innings. They didn't
yeah.
even play the bottom half of the 7th.
Yeah, man, like that. And then that was another one hitter. So the pitching staff is really solid. I mean, like, granted, it's not been the best competition, but this is where you can fine tune that pitching rotation, full with it a little bit, get some guys some meaningful, pitch counts, this, that, and the other. Pitching's not a concern right now. We thought
No,
it
and
would be before the season started.
that was the concern before the season started. So it's really good to see that they've still got some heat over there in the bullpen. Now, your closers and your relievers, that's going to be the biggest question right there when you get to play the big boys. But I mean, you still have a couple more weeks before you do that. Like, you've got High Point on Tuesday, the 27th at 5:30 Eastern. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. That one will be on SEC Network Plus. Later this week, starting on March 1st on Friday, March 2nd, which is Saturday, and March 3rd, which is Sunday, you have Bowling Green coming to town. So they'll be over at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Something to watch for. Bowling Green is a good program, not a great program, but it's still something to watch for right there.
Yeah, yeah. So, they got some time to get everything tuned up, and ready to go for when the big stretch starts in a
Yeah,
couple
well,
weeks.
yeah, I mean, man, you've got, let's call it what it is. You've got 2 weeks until SEC play starts. You travel down to Tuscaloosa on March 15th. So it's time to get it kind of solidified and be able to get things rolling right there. But Jordan, let's go run to break and let's join the guys with the jungle here shortly. How does that sound?
Let's go. We'll roll in there like George of the Jungle, son.
All right, guys. If you all are anything like me and you have a hard time waking up in the morning until you get that caffeine in you, come give our friends at W a try. Each energy blend that they have created comes with no calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial colors. So you go online, you go buy it, it comes to your house. It comes in a little container with powder in it. Scoop it out, drop it in your shaker, add water, shake it up, and you're good to go. It's that simple. Tastes amazing, no carbonation, no added sugars in it, so you don't get that sugar crash at the end of your energy buzz. Let me tell you guys, this stuff is amazing. My favorite flavor is Beach and Peach, which is a white mango peach. And oh boy, stuff is great. Let me just tell you. Go to w.gg on your web browser and type in promo code VOLINOUT for 10% off. VAWLINOUT for 10% off.
If you're looking for the perfect Smoky Mountain vacation, Mountain Romance is your cozy romantic getaway. Starting at $129 per night, you get 2 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and this beautiful cabin will sleep up to 6 people. With an amazing mountain view, fire pit, pool table, and hot tub, this place has it all and is located within minutes of downtown Gatlinburg. To inquire, go to Airbnb and search for Mountain Romance or email bearslair2021@gmail.com.
All right, guys, welcome back in. We are joined with Ben and Ryan from the Jungle Auburn podcast. How are you boys doing tonight?
What's up, fellas?
Man, we're doing good. Excited for this big game coming up. How are you guys?
Oh, buddy. If we were any better, we'd need 2 twins.
Right. Well, guys, let's just dive right on into it. Massive game at the Food City Center in Knoxville on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. against Bruce Pearl's Auburn Tigers. So we're getting a rematch against Bruce Pearl. Kind of tell us what you guys can expect from Auburn in this game.
Ryan, you want to lead off because we've had to replace a pretty big piece. Jalen Williams was Auburn's SEC Player of the Year candidate prior to his injury against Kentucky. He's got some sort of knee injury. It's not going to be season-ending, but we're not sure when we're getting him back. And we're definitely not going to get him back for this game in Knoxville. But Ryan was pretty high on a guy that we picked up in the offseason that is stepping in for him. Ryan, you want to talk about him?
Yeah, so Chaney Johnson is replacing Jalen Williams at the 4. What's pretty interesting is we were all a little interested to see how we do against Georgia this past weekend, just due to Jalen being out, missing a big piece of the offense there. And Bruce really tinkered with the lineup a lot. He started, I believe, 2 new guys on the lineup that never started this year before, and came out with just a lot of firepower that we honestly were a little surprised to see. But at the same time, maybe we weren't that surprised to see. Bruce does really well off of bye weeks. He does really well. I mean, it's historical, even back in Tennessee days. They game plan really well. He gets the guys motivated, especially after the loss against Kentucky. So they came out and really threw a lot of new lineups and new things that we had not seen all year. And so it was a very interesting dynamic to see how we played that Georgia game and how that might transfer into this Tennessee game. All year, the storyline about Auburn has been our depth. How deep we are. We're 10 to 11 guys deep, which has, really helped us in a lot of those games against teams that aren't as deep, and we just kept rolling out those guys, rolling out, and we just wear teams down. I think one of the craziest stat lines of the year is that we have won every single one of our games by double digits. So we're not winning a game close. We are winning a game by double digits if we're winning. So I don't know if that's going to carry over into, a road win like that. But you never know. I think we've won 21 this year. So all 21 wins have been double digits. The Auburn record is 26 by the 1999-2000 team. So it's an interesting team. We could dive into a little more later about what to expect, but just kind of some storylines surrounding the team and what we have been seeing rolling into this game from the Georgia game this past weekend.
Man, that's an impressive stat. 21, all by double digits. I know there for a while you guys ripped off like 7 or 8 by 15 plus.
Yeah, that is to start conference play. We were in a really great shape. We were playing some amazing offense. And my hope is that we don't see a reenactment of last year's game in Knoxville. Once again, we saw Auburn and Tennessee both fighting for those double buys like we're going to be doing again this year. We're not quite sure how the conference race is going to shake out. But last season's game in Knoxville was a rock fight. Neither team could get to 50. Neither team could hit the ocean from a boat. It was decided by one possession at the end of the game. And we're definitely hoping to avoid something that close this time around.
Yeah, I don't expect that to be the case. I mean, both teams have a much better offense this year. So I think that's going to kind of help us out right there. Who are some of the players for Tennessee fans to look out for in this game? I mean, we all know about Ncaa Broome, but who else is there on that Auburn squad this year?
Ben, take that one. Start off with.
Oh, well, we got to start off with our most electric player by far. He's a guy named Chad Baker-Mazara. He's a transfer in the year of the NIL and the crazy new transfer rules. He started off as a player at San Diego State, where he won 6th Man of the Year for Mountain West, eventually transferred D2, I believe, at West Florida, and then has since come to Auburn. He's filled in for Alan Flanagan, who transferred out to go join Ole Miss, and is playing the 3 position for us. And after Jalen's injury, Chad Baker-Mazara is no longer coming off the bench. He is now a starter. And I think he entrenched himself that with his best game of the year against Georgia last week. He scored a season-high 25 points. And he's a little undersized. He's around 180 pounds at 6'7". And he is going to be the guy that we asked to match up sort of head-to-head with SEC Player of the Year frontrunner, at least in our opinion, Dalton Connect. So he's going to be your first guy to watch out for. And then the second guy is somebody that I'm sure everyone in Tennessee has heard of, a little 5-star point guard by the name of Aiden Holloway. He's had one of the roughest stretches of three-point shooting I think I've ever seen for a guy that's so talented in SEC play. He came into SEC play shooting around 33, 34% from behind the arc, and then just went stone cold following the LSU game and had a stretch of 9 games where he was shooting around 22%. So just abysmal numbers. But finally, we put him back into the starting lineup against Georgia, really trying to shake things up, get him going early. And he had 5 3-pointers, went 5 of 8 from behind the arc, and just absolutely lit up the Stegman.
Yeah, I would say Ncaa, kind of the big players to look out for. Obviously, Ncaa Broome, Aiden, Chad Baker, and I would also look out for Chaney Johnson as well. It's an interesting story. He's a Division II player who took a really long time to get into his form. You know, one of those players that Bruce Pearl took a chance on, as he does with a lot of players. Even date back to Tennessee days, and has really developed this guy throughout the year. His confidence has continued to grow. Against Georgia, he put up 16 points, and really he has not played more than probably 16 minutes a game. Up to that point, he played 26 minutes, and has just looked like a player that we have hoped he would turn out to be, and could really help propel this team a little bit in March. And so he's going to be an interesting matchup going against some guys from Tennessee who are a lot bigger, a lot have more experience than he does. So I'm actually curious to see how he matches up against Tennessee. But those are kind of some of the bigger names we would just ask to look out for in that type of game.
Bruce. One thing about Bruce, those undersized guys, buddy, he typically coaches them up. I mean, it's like he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, but with those guys in particular, he turns them into he develops them.
Yeah, it's the Bruce Pearl system. I mean, you see it with the team that went to the that team of Wayne Chisholm with Chris Lofton, those guys. I mean, that is what we have hoped our teams would be throughout the years, and we did in that 2019 team. Went to the Final Four. Guards that could run you in the gym, but also some really athletic, forwards and bigs. I think the past couple years we've gone a little away from that, and I think you're starting to see a little bit of a revelation in that with this year's team. I think in that 2019 team, there was a pivotal game with about 4 games left in the year against Georgia. That team did, from that point on, did not lose another game till the Final Four. People are saying that this game we had this past weekend could be that starting point type of game, where guys' shots start falling, they're a little more comfortable. Offense is flowing really well. So that's why this game, I feel like against Tennessee is such a big game for Auburn because, we've gotten that confidence back. So how's that going to translate in this massive environment and against, these really good players from Tennessee? Is that going to continue forward, or are we going to, put up another one of our road duds that we've been notorious for this year? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And one of the best things, one of the
Go
best
ahead.
things about this year team is we've been assisting, we've been passing the ball so well. And in most of our wins, we're having 17, 18, 19, sometimes as many as 20 assists, which is a big shift from years past. Bruce's small-time point guards are usually a score-first guard. There's somebody who, if the play breaks down late in the shot clock, we're going to have them yak up a three or try to go ISO ball. And we're getting to see strength on a strength going against Tennessee. Ncaa Ziegler, I believe, is still leading the SEC, averaging almost 6 assists a game. I mean, you want to talk about a super talented, undersized guard. He's got one more year of eligibility left. You guys think you could rent him out a little further south?
No. Hell no, not Ncaa. We can't give up Ncaa right there.
No, cannot happen. We can't have that.
Jude is a baller.
That's everybody's favorite player on the team. I mean, we kind of like what we said before we hit record on this. All Tennessee fans love Bruce, but if there's one person that everybody can agree with, it's Ncaa Ziegler, who they love more. I mean, the kid is just phenomenal. So kind of talking about Bruce, Ben, kind of tell us what the Auburn's fans' pace is when it comes to Bruce, because like I said, Tennessee fans love him, and Bruce is kind of to be credited for where Tennessee is in basketball, because before Bruce came to Knoxville, Tennessee was just a doormat in the SEC, honestly.
Well, if you think about it, all of the SEC was a doormat for that big blue team just a little further north in the old Kentucky Wildcats. But it's amazing to watch what Bruce has done for our program, who was definitely in one of the lowest points it was before Bruce came in. I mean, the Tony Barbie era happened to be when I was in school. It was also while Ryan was in school doing our undergrad there. It was a tough time to be an Auburn basketball fan. And although Bruce constantly talks about how grateful he is to Auburn for what he feels like was a second chance to rejuvenate his career, I mean, just like he built up Tennessee, he built Auburn from the ground up. I mean, we absolutely know that for a fact that court is going to be named after him someday. He doesn't want our student section that likes to camp out to be called Pearlville, but too bad, Bruce. It's going to happen. He's been so incredibly important for this program. He's taken us to heights that nobody could have ever imagined, and he's kept us nationally relevant and continuing to build. And I think that's been one of the great things about watching both Tennessee and Auburn over the last 10 years. It's added such depth to the SEC, and it's made late season SEC basketball must-see TV, not just around the Southeast, but across the whole country. I mean, teams are watching the SEC conference race to see what's going to happen in March. Who are the teams they got to look out for? It used to be Big East, ACC, Big 12, and that was all anybody ever cared about. And now the SEC is fielding some of the best teams in America.
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the SEC is the best conference this year in America, and I don't think it's really even close. I mean, the Big 12 has done a lot of really good things, but just the SEC, man, I mean, it's hard to find teams that can compete with the teams from the Southeastern Conference. So, guys, let's get some score predictions for Wednesday night. Ryan, what are you kind of expecting on Wednesday?
It's tough because, if you look back at previous years of previous teams, I mean, Bruce Pearl teams against Rick Barnes teams have played really well, regardless of the matchup, regardless of the size difference. He always has those guys ready to play. I'm still going to go with Tennessee winning. I think it's going to be probably a really close game, probably more of a 75-72 game. I know I'm being more realistic than probably Ben is, but just realistically, I just don't know how this, if we can overcome the Jalen difference, in terms of size, in terms of depth down low. I think Tennessee's really going to hammer the ball down low, try to get our guys in foul trouble, which is what Georgia did. They were pretty successful at it. We were in foul trouble all night, but obviously we ran away with the game. So that's kind of my prediction. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but just being realistic there, that's what I feel like might happen.
What do you got, Ben?
I'm not here to be realistic. I'm here to be the color guy for sure. I think Auburn's going to go into Knoxville. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to end up splitting the SEC championship with you guys when y'all go into Tuscaloosa and dethrone Alabama. Get them out of here. Alabama's going to go lose in Gainesville again. It's just going to be two teams at the top, Tennessee and Auburn. And, the crazy thing about this season has just been the way that teams have suffered on the road. I mean, we've seen more top 10 teams lose on the road in this season than I think we ever have in my entire lifetime. But we have got two of the best defensive teams in America going at it in Tennessee. Tennessee is ranked second in KenPom in overall adjusted defense. Auburn is ranked fifth. So that's the number 2 and the number 5 defense. I think personally this game, it's not going to be as bad of a rock fight as last time in the 40s, but it is going to be a race to 60. And I think that Auburn is finally going to pull off winning a close game against a program that is absolutely their equal in the SEC race. 60-58, Auburn Tigers.
Oh,
Okay, Jordan, what do you got?
Oh man, I'm gonna call. I don't even think it's gonna be a rock fight. I think it's gonna be a shootout. 82-78 Vols.
Gosh, I'm going to say 75-71 Vols, just in a really close one right there. Bruce Pearl coming back to now the Food City Center, but formerly known as Thompson Bowling Arena. He always wants to beat up on us. It's so weird. I can't get used to it. I can't get used to it.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, boys. I was waiting on Ben to be like Auburn by 50, the way he was building that up.
Listen, but that's the amount of respect I have for this defense that we're bringing with us. I think we can keep you down, but I've just seen us be too streaky, especially on the road, and I got too much respect for Tennessee's defense. They don't let you take open shots, and so it's going to be a struggle all the way through. And I think the team that gets to 61st has the best chance of winning, and I think we're going to do it at the buzzer.
Well, Dalton Connect may have 35 by himself right there, so let's keep our fingers crossed on that.
That's something Grant and I always kind of talk about, though, man. Teams that come out and punch Tennessee in the mouth, keep it close, they muck it up, and Tennessee don't like that. So if you guys do that, I'd say either one of y'all score predictions is probably right, and it could go the other way. So
it's pretty.
Well, here's the thing. We got to watch South Carolina before anybody knew how good that team was. Going to Knoxville and completely dirty up that game. They made it slow. And they tried to do the same thing in Neville Arena, but we had the advantage of having seen what they could do. And we hit some shots at home that we have not hit since. I mean, we played, I believe that was our best offensive efficiency game ever against
Didn't you beat them
South
by like
Carolina
43 or something like that?
40 even. It was 101-61. Yeah, we ran them out of the gym on that one. We got all the home cooking happening, but we're gonna have to go into Knoxville and we're gonna have to slow this game down, lean on our defense, work that half court, and that's going to be the challenge: is can we make Tennessee work in their half court as well?
Is there any looking ahead to this Saturday at Alabama? Do you feel like for the fan base in this team, or is it because Bruce is coming to town? It's a top potential. It might not be a top 10 matchup. We might be right there on the edge, but obviously a huge top 15 matchup. I know game day going to Tuscaloosa next weekend, all that stuff, but I'm sure all eyes are on Auburn this Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn is everybody looks forward to Kentucky. That's our biggest rival. There's no questions about that. I mean, it's probably one of the best rivalries in the SEC in basketball, Tennessee and Kentucky. But Tennessee and Auburn, that's the second game everybody looks forward to every year just because of Bruce Pearl. It's like what I said earlier. Tennessee fans love Bruce Pearl as much as they did the day that he was fired still. I mean, everybody still loves the guy, and we're going back, 15 years almost at this point? I mean, it's been a while. So for him to still have that fanfare, nobody's looking ahead to Alabama right now.
Now, I got to ask, do y'all ever get mad thinking about what Bruce Pearl got fired over? In the day and age of the NIL?
Day.
Every time I fire up my grill, every time.
A barbecue, man.
Yeah.
And now we're doing photo shoots. We're swagging out their hotel rooms. It's unbelievable. It's a different world.
It's like I told you, Ben, and Ryan, you weren't on yet before we hit record when I said this, but I mean, I grew up with his kids. So like to go to school with them and, spend time with them and then see this, it's like, okay, guys, come on. And what he could have done at Tennessee too. I mean, he took you guys to that Final Four and he could have done the same in Knoxville and probably would have done it, just a little bit earlier, but for whatever reason, we had to move on from him. So guys, we want to close out the show with you guys playing a game that we like to play with everybody on with us. It's called Start Bench Cut. Do you guys know what Start Bench Cut is?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I only asked because we had somebody on one time who had no idea, and he was like, "Just give one answer." I'm like, "Okay, come on, no, that's not how we do this." So, myself and Jordan are not going to jump in on the first one. This is just for you two, but it's about Auburn on this. So, biggest rival for Auburn, not named Alabama. Start, bench, cut: Tennessee, Georgia, or LSU.
Well, we like to strictly keep it basketball on the Auburn Jungle podcast. We don't talk about any other sports. We don't talk about any F words, nothing like that. So as far as basketball goes, you got to start Tennessee. Absolutely. And their other two were Georgia and who else?
LSU.
Oh, all right. Put Georgia on the bench because we have to play them twice a year, every year. We get some of our best players from Georgia. Jabari Smith, our big-time McDonald's All-American lottery pick. He was a Georgia boy. We stole from him. If Georgia ever gets good, if we ever let them off the mat, we're in trouble. So Georgia's bench.
Right.
And, yeah, cut LSU. They've had some success in the past, but they're not doing so hot right now.
I would have to agree with that. All those. I would have done the same. Now, if Will Wade was still at LSU, they might be higher than Georgia, but I mean they're dormant right now.
But Will Wade's gone bye-bye.
Thank God. That was a problem for us here. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't stand that guy. And
Grant
what's
Buddy.
crazy is he's from Tennessee too. So that was always fun right there.
I
And then
feel
they hired
attacked
another
after
guy
that.
from Tennessee.
Yeah.
You feel
Don't let the door
attacked?
hit you on
I
the
feel
way out.
attacked.
Right. So guys, and Jordan, you can jump in on this one as well. Which SEC team wins the conference this year? Start, bench, cut: Tennessee, Auburn, or Alabama?
Oh,
Regular season or tournament?
Regular season.
Ryan,
Do
why don't you
both,
lead us off
actually.
on
Do a
this one?
regular season and a tournament.
What were the three teams again?
Tennessee, Auburn, and Alabama.
Ben, you go first.
All right, fine. I'll jump in. Listen, I'm here to be the color guy. I'm here to be the homer. Auburn, we're starting. We're gonna win in Knoxville. We have the easiest road by far. If we can get past Tennessee some way, somehow, we got Mississippi State at home. We got to go on the road to the worst team in the league, Missouri, who is still winless in the conference, and then we finish
might
with
scare
Georgia
you.
at home. No, not with this team. We got too much energy. We got too much hype, especially if we can win this game and we're really in contention. Unfortunately, I think Alabama's the bench because if I'm being realistic, they're the team that's got the best shot. They get you guys at home. They've got to go to Florida, but they have a game that they can spare. So if they can get past you guys at home, where they've been pretty good this year, especially in conference play, they're still undefeated at home. They've got a real shot. And I gotta cut Tennessee. You guys just have the toughest road. You have to play all four of the top teams. You got to play us. You got to play Alabama. You got to play Kentucky, and you got to play South Carolina, who's been sneaky good. And if I'm being honest, I think South Carolina has a really good chance to win the SEC tournament.
I don't disagree with that. I
Yeah.
love the South Carolina team. I've said it over and over again. Mine on this, I'm going to start Tennessee, not being a homer. I just think Tennessee's the best team in the conference this year. I'm going to
No
bench
disagreement
Auburn.
there.
I'm going to bench Auburn. I think that you got kind of like what you said. You've got the easiest path left where Tennessee's got the toughest path. I mean, 4 quad 1 games for Tennessee coming up right here. And then I'm going to bench Alabama just because we don't give a damn about the state of Alabama and Tennessee. That's our thing right there. So, Ryan, who do you got?
So that's why I feel like this game Wednesday is so pivotal because it could really determine the race, just in terms of momentum and what to expect for the games moving forward. If we win, I don't think we lose again for the rest of the year. I really don't. And that's where that goes back to that point I made earlier about the game against Georgia in 2019. That could start the momentum train for this team moving forward if we were to win this game Wednesday, which is why I feel like it's so pivotal. So I'm going to start us just for that fact that if we can get past this game Wednesday, I just don't think we're going to lose. Again, especially after having Mississippi State at home. We lost that game. It was horrible. Y'all lost to Mississippi State too. I mean, it was like, what are we watching here? This is ridiculous. But they're not. There's no way they win in Neville. And then the rest of the games, I just don't see us dropping. So. Alabama is interesting because they just look like the world's best team at home with their dribble drive offense. They only shoot threes. They only make threes at home, but yet they go on the road. They can't guard anyone, and so they're definitely going to be out for a rematch game against you guys. depending on what happens against us, who knows what Tennessee team might show up in that game. So I'm gonna start us. I'm gonna bench Tennessee, and you're right. I'm gonna cut Alabama just because I cannot see No-Dos win another championship. I just can't.
I can't see it either. I don't want to see it. Jordan, what do you got, man?
I'm starting the Vols. Big surprise, right? No, but seriously, my reasoning: Tennessee controls its own destiny. If they can win out, there's no questions asked. That's a big if. Granted, Auburn, Kentucky, South Carolina, all that, Alabama, whatever. Bring it. We're here for it. I want to see it. I want to see it happen. I think they'll do it. I think we'll go down to Alabama Saturday and just spank them. But that's looking ahead. I'm not looking ahead because we talked about it earlier. I will have a cigar ready for Saturday though. Still a tradition even in basketball. I'm gonna bench Auburn, cut Bama because they suck. It's Bama. They don't suck,
right.
But I'm just that's me being politically correct.
I think all four of us hate Alabama.
Yeah. We can turn this into a Crimson hate fest. I'm down for that.
This SEC tournament, this is one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most because I really don't know what to expect, honestly. In years past, you kind of could tell ahead of time like what might happen there. Obviously, with our run, 2019 was a little different. But this year,
I was at the game that you guys beat us in 2019 too. So thanks.
Oh,
unreal.
That was home to our favorite play of all time. Jared Harper passing up the open layup to go for a 3-pointer. Oh, beautiful basketball.
That hurts, man. That hurts.
Yeah, that one hurt us.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting because you never know. Like Alabama could get hot in that tournament. Kentucky, who knows what Kentucky team's going to show up. Auburn typically doesn't play well in SEC tournaments. To be honest with you, I think Bruce is like, if we don't win that first game, it's whatever. I don't know. We never really seem to put a big emphasis on that first game in the SEC tournament. I don't know why. We just, if we ever win past that game, then we accelerate forward. But it's always been a weird. We can never get past that hump for some reason. So I'm really looking forward to this year's SEC tournament. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love going to Nashville to watch it. I'm hoping to go this year again.
Well, I will be there, man. So make sure you text me if you're there.
Yeah. Sweet.
We've been really excited this year because we didn't necessarily expect this team to be ring chasing this late in the season. We didn't know where we were going to be at. The crazy thing for us, and I'm not sure if the math is quite the same for Tennessee, but right now Auburn could finish anywhere from 1st to 7th in this conference based on the way the schedule is going to work out. If the wheels completely came off after we lost Jalen Williams, we could finish as low as 7th, miss out on the double bye, have a really tough sled to get into the NCAA tournament, and we still could. We could still finish that low. But Bruce has only won two different times in the SEC tournament. He won the first game and lost the second game his first year. And then there was the Final Four year where we won the whole tournament. And then Bruce has not won a tournament game outside of that. So Auburn has really, really struggled in the FCC tournament. Yeah, it's a very strange phenomenon.
I remember last year, I live here in Nashville. So I went out last year. I had tickets to the whole tournament. And I remember I was so excited to see Auburn play, and then it was over with. I was like, okay. And then Tennessee got beaten first game too. So I was like, this isn't even fun.
Yeah, no, that Arkansas game was such a weird game. I mean, because Arkansas, you could kind of see them starting to come alive at the end of the year with, Nick Smith and those guys. And, it's just a bad matchup for us, honestly. It's all about matchups. I mean, that's what's going to be crazy about this year and this tournament and even the NCAA tournament. I think I texted our, Ben and I's group the other day, and I was like, the season is weird this year because you're only as good as your next game, right? I mean, Auburn goes, absolutely destroys South Carolina, and then goes and scores 50 points against Kentucky. And it's like, what? But that's the same Kentucky team that Tennessee hung, close to 100 or even more. I can't remember. It's just like you're only as good as your next game. So what to expect this Wednesday? I don't know. I mean, Auburn shot the lights out, played so well at Georgia. We could come out and lay another dud. Who knows? It's just – it's a crazy year with that all in mind.
That's why we love college basketball.
Ain't
that's right.
The truth.
Anything can happen in March.
Ain't that the truth? So one last start bench cut for you guys. We're all food guys. Me and Jordan are, at least. We love barbecue. And Alabama's got an interesting twist on barbecue down there. So start, bench, cut, the best style of barbecue: Carolina Gold, Alabama White, or Memphis Dry Rub.
Ooh, wow.
Hey, this one's easy for me. Memphis Dry Rub gets the start. Carolina gets the bench, and you got to cut Alabama White. It's no good.
Carbon copy with you right there, Ben. I lived in Memphis for a while, so I'm going to start Memphis every single time. But Alabama White's just weird to me. I can't get past it.
That's a shot at Moe's barbecue, Ben.
It is. Listen, as a young man, I lived in St. Louis for a little while. I lived in D.C. for a little while. Like Carolina barbecue and Memphis barbecue have a special place in my heart. I had real barbecue before I ever got to Alabama.
What do you got, Ryan?
Well, I've only lived here my whole life, so I got to start Alabama White. I will bench Memphis Dry Rub, and I will cut Carolina Gold. And yeah, but honestly, I'll eat all three. Let's be honest here.
I'll eat two
good
of the
barbecue.
three.
Good barbecue is good barbecue.
That's right.
Yeah.
It
Jordan, what
is.
do you got, man?
Boys, I don't miss many meals, so I'm gonna start the Carolina Gold. I'm gonna bench Memphis. I'm gonna cut the Alabama White, but the only reason I'm doing so, I've never tried it, never had it. I want to try it. I don't know. Ben's looking
That's
at me
brave.
kind of skeptically.
That's brave to try it. It's like a mayonnaise-based barbecue sauce.
Oh,
Listen, it's like no other barbecue you've ever tried. I can say that much.
Yeah.
okay.
It's so how I eat it is you get the smoked wings from a restaurant called Moe's, and then you have the white barbecue sauce on the side, and you just dip it in, and that's how I eat it. That's why I love
Okay.
it. That's my meal.
My man, you're looking out for me. I'll try it.
Well, we got one place out here in Nashville that's pretty popular for it. It's called Wits. I've never ate there just because I don't like Alabama White, but I've heard it's pretty good. So maybe I'll have to go give that one a try eventually and just get the sauce put on the side so I don't get stuck with it if I don't like it. But
I don't like it mixed in, but on the side you can do a little
Work. You can do some work.
Yeah, you can work.
there you go.
Mix
So,
and match.
guys, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you guys for coming on with us. But where can everybody find you guys at on the socials and check out the work that you guys are doing?
So our man Jackson, who helped found the podcast, got us the single greatest Twitter handle of all time. It's just at Auburn Jungle. We got that before the student section got that Twitter on.
Oh, there
so you
you
can find
go.
us on Twitter
Okay.
at Auburn Jungle. You can find us on Instagram at Auburn Jungle Podcast. And if you search Auburn Jungle Podcast on YouTube, you can find the YouTube channel. We go live after every single game. We love to do an interaction with the chats, talk about some listener questions and places like that. And then we'll post the podcast the next day.
Okay. Well,
Heck yeah.
we'll have to make sure we like, rate, and subscribe on your guys' show. All our listeners and viewers need to go do the same as well. But, guys, we're going to end the show how we always do. You're welcome to jump in on your version of it if you want, but go Vols.
Go Vols.
War Damn Eagle.
Damn Eagle.
This episode of the Vol and Out podcast has been brought to you by our friends at Peace of Mind Enterprises. From construction, home remodel, down to general handyman services, Peace of Mind has you covered.
All technicians are licensed and insured, servicing East Tennessee with 30-plus years of experience. Call 865-202-7167 for a free estimate, because nothing beats having peace of mind.